Yeah.
Which again is like the more the Japanese style, the and that's fine, and that's
Traditional.
that,
And it's
I have
cool.
nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a
but-
huge history as to why that developed.
Yeah.
Going
Well-
into the Kaju Kempo stuff and learning about original karate from
Sure.
Okinawa.
Yep.
And what it became nationalized and all that. So we get that sense of it, but you mentioned these ideas that the Kempo karate are adding all these in what you were studying are adding all these adages that are needed, but original karate had.
Well, that's depending on what you call original karate.
Oh, okay.
So now, if you're looking into like Okinawan karate, like traditional, like the stuff still over there in Okinawa, Goju-Ryu, our Chokimoto-bu, and like those cats, yeah, they were fighters.
Yeah, they have ground stuff. They have weapons. They have
it was all there. Now, one of the things that did happen though was after the Japanese kind of
the nationalization.
After World War II, they kind of like went, no, this is what you're doing now, and so they separated Kobudo from, which is the weapons, from the karate or te. If you look at Kenpo, and what we have from Hawaii is like you have that empty hand method, and I honestly believe it does go back to like at least in some form or another to Motobu's method. Motobu was a bad dude.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about he was a fighter.
No, he was.
But that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people
famous.
Exactly. Because you had Shotokan, which was Funakoshi.
Yeah.
And he had it. He was a
lost
school
to
teacher.
him.
Oh yeah, but he was a school teacher.
Right.
So again, it kind of goes back to that thing. Sometimes the best teachers or people who teach are not the best fighters. Sometimes fighters are not the best teachers. Right. But he also like was able to put it into a curriculum.
Yeah.
Which you see something very similar happened in FMA with Precis.
Yeah. Well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He kind of took it and made it to edible.
Yes.
For a public.
And that was only because everybody thought we were just savages. Well, for the most part. I mean, it's like they had machetes. They really used.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you culturalize it? And that's what the Precis brothers did.
Well, most training was like, okay, people show up and it's, okay, what do you guys want to learn today?
Well, also seminars.
Yeah.
Because he was doing seminars at Kempo schools and Taekwondo schools. And those guys, if you tried to show them like all the cool stuff, it would, like most of their people within that, they don't want to teach an 11-year-old like knife stuff.
Right.
But you can literally take something like a simple open 4-count Sinwali, and you can show them, okay, we've got this, and pretty quick those kids are flying with that. It's a huge. I actually, when I teach sticks, I teach double stick first, and I don't even teach a numbering system or anything like that first. I just put those sticks in their hand because it's you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you add on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then pretty soon you see that confidence level in them go through the roof.
Right.
And then there's also the thing of, especially coming from like a Kempo background, the idea of like inward block, downward block, so those kind of things.
So
it's right there. The motion is motion.
I saw it in your movements. That slight turn.
So I'll tell you something
that
then you might appreciate with us then, because when we're not traditional FMAers.
Yeah,
I mean, we're totally just.
I wouldn't even consider us FMAers anymore.
It's not even a. Yeah, it's Danny's idea of how the body should work, and why not let the body do the work.
Amen.
So when we move, it isn't all about. We don't say, "Oh, these are strikes you're going to learn." We say, "Oh, here's an exercise."
Right.
We teach you how to stretch your body out.
Yeah.
The motions that are there.
Well,
you then end up.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is gross like motor function.
Yeah.
Is what you're going to remember when the hits the fan.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I'll say it. Shit. Hits the fan.
And so like fine motor function. Right. That's great.
Yeah.
And like especially somebody who's been in it like as long as you or I or
2 days.
2 days. You should have it then, buddy.
I got it now.
Yeah.
Figured it out last week.
It took you long enough.
But fine tuning and stuff like that. That's where the art side of it comes in. That's the martial side. You like I was saying is you can teach a kid 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3, and if you give them that stick, and put them against somebody else,
they'll do fine.
They're probably going to do
It's
something.
like the video games. You just button smash
Yeah,
them and you're just
and-
going in.
and I mean,
it literally is.
So also too, I teach my son, Killian, and he's been a blessing because he's left-handed.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So when you're
Those
teaching
are my-
somebody
I
who's
have the
left-handed,
hardest time with- yeah.
but think about it. Think about stick methodology as it is taught normally,
Right.
or even things like Kempo or whatever.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times it's that right side.
Yeah.
Dominance,
And
yeah.
you're doing most of the work is with your right hand. You're doing something, and this might be checking or doing something, but for him, it's the opposite. So that timing, and when you're training with them, that timing,
Then yours changes too.
but
Because
al-
of it.
because of it.
Yeah.
But also,
I like it.
for me to teach him specific things,
Yeah.
it's made me try
Have
and
to rethink it.
get much better with my left hand.
He's all like, wait,
Forces you.
hold on.
Right. Well, you know, the humans are a crazy thing because we got this one hand that
Right.
can, like
The dominant hand,
like
yeah.
can do anything.
Yeah, it's
and this
Neo
hand,
doing this.
how do I hold a pencil?
Right.
But one of the things too is this is actually something that I heard from Mark Denny from the Dog Brothers. He had said the power of words, right? The idea that if I call this my dominant hand and this my dumb hand, my hand's going to believe that.
Right.
I'm going to believe that this is,
Yeah.
dumb. I can't do anything with it. And this is the one that's going to do everything. But if you think of it as your complementary, oh, well, now it's a helper,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So-
It's the verbiage that you give yourself.
Give it yourself.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the power of positive thinking or anything like that, but it is
It
definitely
works along that line.
trying
Oh,
not
yeah.
to put a limit on yourself or your ability before you even get out of the gate.
Right.
But one thing that happened too for me that was, I'm going to say another blessing, but it kind of sucked at the time, was I
You lost
was.
all your hair.
Oh no, that's okay. I am more streamlined and aerodynamic than everybody. I mean, dude,
I can move so much better now.
I move so much better. At least 5%.
At least.
At least.
Like
I
a dolphin
believe-
through water.
Yes, I mean,
Sorry, it was bad. What happened?
no, I was rolling, like doing jujitsu with my buddy, and he had me in what was called butterfly guard. The butterfly guard is when they have
Yep.
right up there.
Yeah.
And I did the dumbest thing ever because he had an overhook right here,
Right.
and I was.
So he's doing, yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
got that. And he goes to sweep me.
Yeah.
And so I go down.
Oh, he put an arm out.
No, yeah, he had wrapped, and I post. You know what
Of course you
happened?
did.
Snap.
Bam.
And it literally sounded like that. We both went, "Oh shit!"
Right.
And my first words were, "Don't tell Trish."
Yeah.
He's like, so, and he went and grabbed some. But so what happened is I had hyperextended my arm,
Yeah.
so
Right,
I
of
strained
course.
it. And so for almost a month, I had to have my arm in like a
Okay,
sling
yeah.
of some sort or another. So what that did was, again, made me
Force you
force
to go to the right.
work on my left hand.
Oh, funny. And she's like, what's in her? Oh, nothing. I'm just trying to.
No, I'm just working on my left hand to teach our son
Yeah.
better.
So I
So
have this one in a sink,
Gonna-
so I don't use
Oh
it.
yeah, oh yeah. But
So I
again,
don't
too,
use
though,
it.
one of the things though is like I've always been pretty good with that sort of thing. Just
Yeah.
coming from the background of being a guitar player, musician.
Right.
Okay.
You are constantly working in
Both hands.
both hands, and the picking
Complementary
hand,
hand.
the picking hand isn't any less important than
Right.
than the
Right.
hand that's
We
making the notes.
We emphasize that with the idea that the free hand is the deadlier of the two.
Oh, the live hand, right?
Yeah, the
well,
live hand.
that's the spada, right?
Yeah. The live hand is more deadly than the weapon hand.
Even the term live hand
Yeah.
versus something that's
Yeah.
passive. It's
Well, and
active.
if you look in more like classical fencing, like the
Right.
Spanish, and,
Oh, yeah.
they always had the gouge,
Right.
and it's the short blade that keeps, it parries, it does stuff, but you know what the other thing that does?
Yeah,
It keeps him from it also keeps him from closing distance on
Right.
you. And if you do any kind of like real hard sparring with sticks, and you have that, most people are not afraid of this because it's smaller. They're just looking to crack your head in.
Oh yeah.
But what it does is it makes him respect to not just close in and smother you and crash and try and take it to the ground.
Right.
Which is what happens a lot in like the real style, like hard contact.
You know, and that's one of the things that has always surprised me about fighting in general, right? Mm-hmm. We pretend it's a stand-up game, right? I mean, everybody always, I'm gonna fight.
Yeah.
And the moment that you touch, you're dropping to the ground, both of you.
Pretty close to it. Not always. Though.
Yeah, but
not
for
always.
the most
but
part,
it definitely.
Yeah, it'll get to the ground, and then all the stuff that you remember goes out the window.
Yeah, like you were saying, the transition from stand-up game to
to that
game.
to the
Forget all the stand-up stuff.
One of the things that helps with that is working clinch work.
Yeah,
right.
And so stuff like Muay Thai, even judo and wrestling, like Greco-Roman, is brilliant for that. You guys remember Randy Couture, right?
Yeah, Randy.
Of course.
He wasn't a ground guy.
No,
he'd get you up against that cage because he was an Olympic level Greco guy.
Oh yeah.
And he just would tie your arms up and just beat the living crap out of you, and so it's an interesting.
Yeah.
But you're correct.
Yeah, and because of that, and which is why in UFC more and more MMA fighters are trying to complement with their ground game to whatever they had on top of it.
Well, what you see now, I personally believe, is with a lot of the UFC game, early on, ground was, especially like just straight Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, was obviously a dominant force.
Yes.
Obviously. But what started coming in were guys like Dan Severn and Mark Coleman. I mean, there was a lot of steroids involved back then too, but the wrestling game, and I'm just talking not even catch, like straight collegiate style wrestling.
Right.
Well, what do those guys work on constantly? And it's not, the ground game is a thing, but what is it?
Entries.
Not just entries, but not getting taken down.
Oh yeah, staying up.
You work your sprawl.
Yeah.
You work your I mean, I saw your episode with
with Kelly.
Yeah. So that idea of learning how to avoid the shoot,
Right.
or and one of the problems
Severson
too.
was really good at that.
Yeah.
I remember him being.
Yeah,
he
well,
didn't like to go to the ground.
There's a lot of guys now that are utilizing the jiu-jitsu game as kind of a finishing thing, that if it gets to the ground, I'm doing this.
Right.
But your stand-up game has gotten way more advanced, even since guys like GSP. GSP was was the guy that kind of started. He brought in Freddie Roach as a freaking boxing, and Freddie is. I mean, he trained Pacquiao. He was the guy, right? So he started learning that jab and straight lit Josh Koscheck up.
Yeah.
You remember that fight? And the eye and Koscheck is a legit wrestler.
Right.
So you had that going on, and now you have these guys that have this stand-up game that actually has evolved quite a lot too, because
the understanding of not being taken down.
Well, originally you had your atypical MMA guy, and that would be a guy who does Muay Thai.
Right.
He does some wrestling, and then he's jiu-jitsu. That is kind of like the prototypical guy. But then you
basic
have
blend.
Yeah, that's the right. But then you started getting guys like GSP or Machida or even Connor to a degree of they had something else that was a little different. What was it?
Yeah,
it was karate.
The karate. I mean, Lyoto Machida's stuff was incredible.
Oh yeah, he was.
Just to see him. I mean, his karate was so good that's all he really needed for a lot of the fights.
Well,
a technical fighter.
One of the other things that was really cool that I learned about him was that he also studied sumo.
Yeah,
really.
So his stand-up defense game of someone rushing in on him was the level is a different level.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense now. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking.
But I mean, he's also a legit,
Brazilian
Jiu-Jitsu
He really
black
is.
belt.
He's a black belt in that.
Yeah, but he didn't go to the ground very often.
He didn't like it.
He would
didn't
stay
like it.
standing.
He used his karate more than anything else.
Yeah,
and now
because he would touch without getting touched.
I used to love watching him because that was pure guy stand-up fight.
Yeah.
He was really good at that.
But so you have that, and so that's kind of like the idea of you have these arts that can blend and fill gaps in, and again, body types and stuff like that do take.
See, and you're one of the few people that actually who's done more of the traditional arts to say that out loud. That your body type makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Into what arts you can incorporate.
Well,
but that's a rarity that we hear that.
Yeah,
that's
really?
why we're bringing yeah. Whenever we talk to people, that is never mentioned.
Nope.
You were the first, because we talk about it all the time. We say, when we're teaching our students, traditionally, if you were in a certain body type, you were not going to last in that school.
Right.
Because you had to be slender,
Sir,
medium,
yeah,
blah, blah,
or-
blah.
yeah,
that
yeah.
guy.
Right.
And in our system, we say, no, we're going to use your body mechanics to make you what you're going to become.
Yeah, we've had
You're going to move the
we've
way
had
you move
short, we have,
because of
yeah.
your body, what your body will
Well,
force you to move.
So with that too, you end up with in like the stick fighting game. One of the things to look at is
body.
that's never like underestimate, because I've seen
I know.
I've seen
Yeah,
dudes
I know.
that you'd be like nah, and you see him move and you're like oh
Yeah, look at Mike McKenzie.
yeah, like
Mike
Oh
Ruby,
my God! Yeah, he
Oh,
Miguel?
flung me like nothing.
yeah, that was a good embryo. I like that one.
Yeah.
He,
dude is-
Well,
the guy moves
Oh
incredibly.
my God!
As
Yeah.
big as he is.
Yeah.
We got him to move for the first time in our video.
Well,
after a while.
I was just telling Maestro Mike, I was like, I had no idea, like
Right?
none. I was
You
like,
were
I
okay.
knew he played, because you don't get into the FMA supply, but then you watch him and you're like,
He's always that guy behind the table with all the
you
stuff.
you never see him
But
play.
to see him move, you're like, oh shit.
super nice guy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
amazing quality service. Thank you, sir. All your,
He
all
wants
your
that
sticks.
discount. Shout
Just
out.
put Kali
Another
combos, you get
10%.
10% off. Kali combat 10%.
No, his sticks are like really good though. Actually, that's what I've been using lately.
Oh yeah, no, we have we restocked when we saw him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's surprisingly agile.
But there's like.
But he was
a
talking
lot
about
of-
his brother,
Yeah,
6'9".
so that's the thing is you have guys that move outside of what
The
you
norm.
perceive.
the expectation.
Well,
Yeah.
because I used to work in sales, I was a Guitar Center guy for like 12 years, and they always told you never sell something out of your wallet. So the idea is, if I'm a broke, starving musician,
Right.
that doesn't mean that guy
Right.
doesn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So you don't just offer them this cheap guitar. You go, hey, look at that Les Paul.
Of
That's
course.
and they might just be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then they go and they sign up for the credit. Oh, he got approved because he isn't a starving musician
Yeah, like myself.
like my soul.
Well, now that you bring that up, working in sales as a starving musician,
Oh,
how did you get into that?
You like to segue?
Oh, that was like not even very painful at all. No,
We're getting pretty good at it.
We've been around the block a few times. Yeah,
You just made me
just
sound cheap.
smooth.
And I'll be honest with you, I actually wanted to touch it because of the music.
Sure. So I started playing guitar at 11 years old, and it was literally
Wait. Were you good?
Yes.
Okay, just make sure.
No, at 11 I wasn't good.
Well, that's what I'm asking, because some people start, they're young, they're kind of prodigies.
just making noise.
Good at it, yeah.
No, that's the thing too. Is just like a martial artist. You are not actually, there are some people who are born fighters.
Yeah.
And you give them like we said, a couple
Give 'em a
tools,
stick, all of a sudden,
and all of a
yeah.
sudden they're pulling off stuff that you're like, you shouldn't
Danny
be able to do
Nosanto.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But so I talked my parents into letting me buy a guitar.
Talk them into it.
Oh yeah.
This was a fight then.
Well, of course, because I was listening to bands like, again, this is like early 80s. This is like
Yeah.
86.
Megadeth.
Megadeth, yeah. But actually at that point, I was more into like bands like Motley Crue and
Motley
Skid
Crue.
Row
Okay,
and all,
okay.
because it was hair
Yeah.
bands
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then. And like I was starting to get into Metallica and some of the heavier Iron Maiden
Wow,
stuff.
yeah, that's-
And then they bought me a guitar. I started taking guitar lessons. Joined a band by the time I was in high school. Right out of high school, I was in, and then things got weird. I started playing.
Weird how?
Well, I started playing in death metal bands and punk rock bands,
Wow.
and like
Whoa,
and not-
death metal
like-
and punk rock?
yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
I don't know. I know some people that would
Well,
really argue with you.
I'm not talking like pop punk, not Blink 182 or anything like that.
No, yeah.
But we're talking about like Dead Kennedys.
Oh, okay.
Minor Threat, Black Flag, stuff like that. The Misfits, that was a huge one.
Yeah.
So I was never a punk rock guy, but I just appreciated the music. But
it's a gig.
and actually, at that time, I was already starting to listen to things like Miles Davis and
There you go.
and
Really?
John McLaughlin, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Chick Corea,
Went back to the origins
classical.
of it then.
No, that's
The
like-
origins of rock, yeah.
yeah.
Well,
that's-
I wouldn't
no,
say. I
not,
would
not
say
the origins.
no. They were. That was like
that
kind
was
of
a whole
coming along
different
at-
line on its
yeah.
own.
You think so?
It's
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
100%.
That was its own different line of.
Yeah. It's
These were the guys who really understood music.
now blues is their. So blues is where you kind of get like jazz
Yeah.
comes off this way and rock and roll kind of comes off that way.
Okay.
So rock and
That's
roll,
the
and then
connection
from
behind
rock
it,
and
yeah.
roll, from rock and roll you get heavy metal. From heavy metal you get
Yeah.
the down line of all that
And
stuff,
death metal.
death metal and all that stuff. And so yeah, I was doing that.
And
for,
it didn't even take that long to get from one spot to the other because I remember.
No, it was years.
you
It
were
was just a couple
this-
years, yeah.
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 It just trickled in.
But so yeah, like I was doing that. I was playing a lot of guitar at that point. But like I said, then right after high school, I was in a band doing all that. Actually, getting into a lot of fights back then too because of the venues and like the scene, the metal scene.
Yeah. Mosh pits and all.
Yeah. You know what? If you guys ever want to do like an interesting case study on like violence, and I mean not necessarily like it's almost like a tribal level of violence.
Right.
Is